Country. But remember, back to our top story of the hour, the address by the president on the joint sitting of the 12th Parliament as he officially opens it. Live pictures we are bringing you. Members already making way into the National Assembly, where that particular address will be. Members mostly drawn from the Jubilee side. Remember, legislators drawn from the NASA side had vowed not to attend this particular address because they do not think, or they say they do not think, President Uhuru Kenyatta is a legitimate president after the Supreme Court overturned his win after he was announced winner by the IEBC. So instead, they will be having a rally in Kibra, but the president said business will continue as usual. And those are live pictures we're bringing you from both inside Parliament and outside. Well, remember, we'll also be going to Kibra in a minute now once that particular rally begins. But in Parliament, it seems it is back to business. All the more than 160 members of Parliament drawn from the Jubilee side say it is time to get down to business. It has been a year of full politicking, but NASA says it is not over until it's over. Not just yet. Let's wait for the 17th October election, and whoever wins, then maybe we can continue with business. But for now, President Uhuru Kenyatta is not legitimate, does not have a right to be addressing us as president after his win was overturned by the Supreme Court. Live pictures we are bringing you there from the Parliament buildings, both inside and outside, where the final preparations are underway. The leaders or the members of Parliament, both from the Senate and the National Assembly, are making way to just settle down before the president makes his way. He will be inspecting the guard of honor outside Parliament before he gets in. A tradition that has been observed for many years when a president is officially opening a sitting Parliament, and this 12th Parliament is no different. Only that it will be attended by members from one side of the divide, their colleagues from the other side having said that they are not interested in attending this particular sitting due to issues that cropped up after the August 8th elections. And earlier on, we spoke to our reporter, senior parliamentary reporter, Patrick Amimo, who said there are a number of pending bills that need the attention of this 12th Parliament. And of course, for the IEBC to get the 12 billion shillings they're seeking to run this presidential election, they will need a green light from the National Assembly. Hence, really why business needs to get back to normal for many. And this is sentiments we've gotten from many members of Parliament allied or affiliated to Jubilee. Remember, pursuant to the provisions of the Standing Orders 22.2 of the National Assembly and the Standing Orders of 22.2 of the Senate, the speakers of both houses of Parliament should notify all members of Parliament that the opening of the 12th Parliament will be in the National Assembly chambers, where we've just shown you where members of Parliament are just trooping in to just settle down before the president makes his way there. Live pictures from outside, what the president will be looking at, that will be inspecting really outside Parliament before he gets into Parliament. And later on, like I promised, we'll be showing you what will be happening on the other side, that is Kibra, where members of Parliament from the other side of the floor will be congregating for a rally. Something else we are following up on is the arrest of Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria will definitely be missing this particular sitting. And former Senator Johnston Muthama, former Chakos, who were arrested yesterday, they are expected to be arraigned in court this afternoon. But all our eyes are currently at the National Assembly chambers, where President Uhuru Kenyatta will be addressing the 12th Parliament, officially opening it for them to get down to business. Last week, we saw all the 348 of them, members of the National Assembly, Assembly being sworn in and participating in the exercise of electing a Speaker, Justin Muturi, earning himself a second term as the Speaker of the National Assembly. The same process was observed at the Senate, where all members, both from NASA and Jubilee, and the nominated senators were sworn in and elected Ken Lusaka, the former governor for Bungoma, as their speaker in a race that also attracted Farah Maalim, who was fronted by the opposition, but was beaten to it by Ken Lusaka in an exercise that went to a second round for Ken Lusaka to be announced as winner or to be announced as Speaker of the Senate, taking over from Eko Ethuro, who was also seeking a second term on this, but only garnered himself 2 votes. And that particular election for both the Senate Speaker and National Assembly Speaker came just a day after Jubilee Party parliamentary group meeting where the members seemingly were whipped to vote for Ken Lusaka, who seemingly many have said, or the pundits have said, this was a thank you note to him for delivering the Bungoma County votes, more than 100,000 of them that went to Jubilee, an area very well perceived to be a NASA stronghold. These are the dynamics that have been, or the intrigues that have been ongoing behind the scenes, and forthwith as Parliament is being set up, members taking oath of office, the leaders there, religious leaders seemingly now making their way into the National Assembly chambers. Remember, this particular sitting will have prayers from a number of religious leaders there before it's officially opened by the President. The President is also expected to outline his agenda for the next few years, and this definitely is highly dependent on whether he will win the 17th October fresh presidential elections or not. The reasoning that the NASA legislators have been pegging or have been pegging on why really they will not be showing up in this particular sitting. So religious leaders there just settling down before it all starts. Remember, the President was expected to make his address at 2:30. It's 2 minutes past. He has not arrived at Parliament yet, but we understand he might well be on his way there for that particular address. And one side of Parliament really not filled. And of course, this could be very obvious because almost half the members will not be showing up to Parliament for this particular briefing. One of the most memorable addresses that the President has made over time since he was elected in 2013 was when he gave out the list of shame of members who have been implicated in corruption cases in the country that saw a purge on mostly cabinet secretaries who had to step down for investigations to be conducted over their names being mentioned over corruption scandals in the country. Remember, senior reporter Patrick Amimo is live for us in Parliament. I think it's time we just engaged him to get a brief on what really is happening outside Parliament, even as many wait for President Uhuru Kenyatta to make way, inspect the Guard of Honor, then later get into the National Assembly chambers. The process will, of course, begin with the prayers and then his address. I will now throw it to my colleague, Patrick Amimo, who's outside Parliament for an update on what time really we expect the President to show up. Patrick.
Thank you. The President is expected to be at Parliament any time from 2:30. That's when normally afternoon sessions for Parliament convene. So it's been set for 2:30, and this is about almost a few minutes to 2:30. And this particular aspect will be the official opening of the 12th Parliament, where the President has been given that invitation to come and address members, the newly elected members of the 12th Parliament, after they were just sworn in on the 30th of of August, just according to the laws where they're supposed to have after an election, a new house must be in place 30 days after the election, and that which fate was done on the 30th when the new members were sworn in. We expect the president to arrive at 2:30 or thereabouts, between either 2:30 and 3. He should be here for that. So what is happening is that there are preparations by the military, the Kenya Army, trying to just make sure that everything is in order before he comes and inspects the guard of honor. It's only after he's done the inspection of the guard of honor that's when he'll go to inside the chambers of parliament to address the joint session of parliament. And what will happen is that the speakers of both houses, that is the Senate, will first introduce the Senate and the National Assembly will introduce the order of the day for the press. Then after that they'll have to invite the president to address the joint sitting. After that, then members of parliament will adjourn until the next day that the speakers of both houses will set aside. This particular session of parliament, members have not been inducted, so the Parliamentary Service Commission is also working out on ways to ensure that members are inducted, and that particular arrangement will be done on when the dates when members will go out for induction period, which normally takes about 2 weeks for them to familiarize themselves with the standing orders and what it entails. We also expect this particular opening is very, very critical in that the House committees have to be in place. Now with the new constitution, debate or most of the work of Parliament is not done in the plenary, but it's done in the committees. So we expect the committees to be constituted with the leadership, the chairpersons and vice chairpersons of the committee, together with the members of the committees, so that they can transact their businesses in line with their mandate. This time around also there have been changes in that, unlike the past, especially for the case of the National Assembly, where committees had at least 29 members. This time around there's a reduction of the membership of the committees to between 17 to 20, and this one is meant to ensure that there is a robust debate or discussion when they are dealing with various matters that are before the committees. In the Senate, we've had at least the maximum number of senators for the committees has been 9, and we've seen at least debate in the Senate committees adopt a more robust and sober approach. So it is a way at least of ensuring that matters, we don't have a crowded committees. So those are some of the things that we'll be looking at, and also we expect when the head of state comes in to address the parliament, he'll be touching on matters of national importance. We know we are still facing insecurity concerns, especially in Lamu, where the Al-Shabaab, our militaries, together our security agencies are fighting the Al-Shabaabs. We have a case of unemployment, which is still a biting cause for the country, with almost the youth who are a majority affected here, where statistics indicate that at least almost 40% of the population is unemployed. So that's a matter that we expect the president to address to legislators to ensure that they come up with laws that will ensure there is an enabling environment for both business and also those who want to create jobs, especially the informal sector and the other formal sector. The other aspect is also to do with the East African Parliament, because we are behind schedule. We could not elect the 9 members for the regional parliament, and that is one of the business that will be on the House or for the 12th Parliament to ensure that the 9 members that will serve the East African Parliament are in place, and we don't bog the business of that the regional parliament, because as it is, they suspended their sittings until Kenya and South Sudan have their members on board. So it is a matter of urgency and priority, because the East African Parliament went, its term ended in June. So it's very important that Kenya honors its part and ensures that its 9 members are in that East African Parliament. The other aspect that maybe we'll be looking at is to do with the gender bill, which was never passed by the 11th Parliament. So I think it's something that the President will try to exhort lawmakers here to ensure that there is that bill in place, because it's a constitutional amendment bill that needs to be in place to ensure that we comply with our 2010 Constitution. Betty?
Well, it's Akisa Patrick, but really, NASA's legislators' decision not to show up for this particular address by the President, is it in any way consequential?
By the virtue of NASA legislators deciding to boycott this particular sitting, it won't affect the business of the House. In that Parliament will, as I did, it has its own calendar. It sets its own calendar, and it's not under the call and beck of the executive, because one of the roles of Parliament is to oversight the executive. So they also vet those members of those state officers and public officers. So Parliament will carry on with its agenda, and also it means that looking at it in terms of fact, it is that a quorum that is needed to run Parliament is just 50 members. That's what the Constitution provides. So as long as we have 50 members of Parliament, either in the National Assembly, and that's the quorum for the National Assembly, then it can carry on with its business. And as it were, it's very, very critical. There are pending matters before it. We are looking at a fresh election slated for only 35 days away, and IEBC will be seeking the budget. They are estimating at 13 billion, and that money can only come on board after it gets approval from the National Assembly. So it is something that we're looking keen. Parliament has to start to get on with its agenda and fast. Akisa?
So after this particular address, Patrick, what are some of the things we'll be seeing in terms of just getting down to business? You've mentioned the bills that are pending. Does it mean that these are the first ones Parliament will be tackling before they get into any other business?
Yes, there was a change in the standing orders where initially bills before the House could lapse with the end of that the end of that House. But this time around, they changed the standing orders to ensure that those bills that could not be debated and passed in the previous Parliament are passed over to the new Parliament. So those bills that were never passed that in the 11th Parliament, we expect the debate will continue into the 12th Parliament, and to ensure that they get the necessary treatment. That's why we're looking at bills like that to do with the gender parity law. There's a bill on petroleum and the energy bill, which that time when it went to the President for assent, he introduced a memorandum and saying that he expressed some reservations because it was stated that 10% of revenue from SA oil exploration should benefit local communities. But the President did review that and said that he wants 5% to go to communities. It's something that bill is pending before the Senate, which is a body that is mandated to oversight how county governments are run. So senators will be looking into that particular energy bill and the petroleum bill to see whether they agree with the President with the 5% or they'll stick to 10%. The other aspect is that is to do with looking at these. There are those matters that are pending. Say there are those other bodies that require to have their state officers appointed into such bodies. So it's such particular, if it comes to vetting, then the House committees will be vetting these particular state officers or public officers. So it is paramount that Parliament takes up its business as soon as possible and carries on, even as Kenyans look ahead or prepare for the October 17th election, which has been set as a fresh date for the presidential election, and then maybe decide on who will be their next president after this particular matter. But as it is, President Uhuru Kenyatta is the sitting president, and he has every right to come and address the House of Parliament. NASA members of Parliament are deciding to boycott, notwithstanding. Akisa?
Patrick, what reactions are we getting from members of Parliament drawn from the Jubilee side with regard to this decision by their colleagues not to show up? Are they are they by any chance worried, or what really is their reaction?
It is those NASA members allied to the opposition now really have kept they've kept this presence of Parliament. They are not here. They've kept their word. I understand they'll be having a rally. They'll be having a rally in Kibra. So I think majority will be going to Kibra for that public rally as they campaign for the presidential election. That is only 35 days away. The Jubilee, their counterparts in Jubilee say there's no worry. They will continue. They will listen to the president's address. They are very, very optimistic. They've early in the morning we had a parliamentary group meeting at State House where the president spoke to them and told them of the need to push for the Jubilee agenda in the House. So they are upbeat and they'll be trying to see that they push the Jubilee agenda, as it were, when according to the manifesto, what they promised Kenyans to realize in the House and ensure that that agenda is adhered to. There's something to do with the party discipline also. They remember we still have some House leadership positions that are yet to be filled. So those particular positions will be filled. We're looking at committees, who will be chairperson, who will be the vice chair. So there is that, it's something that they'll be eyeing to see that at least they also occupy those strategic committees. So it's something that maybe they will want to take advantage of their colleagues if they might not be there for this particular sessions. But then that we'll wait and see how it will move on after this particular official opening of the 12th Parliament and when the speakers of both houses reconvene the next sitting of the houses to start their business. Akisa?
Patrick, just before I let you go, the last time the president made an address like this, he seemed to appeal to some of the things that Kenyans thought were the biggest problems, and top on the list was agenda. After that particular address he made, he got a standing ovation from members from both sides. This time round, what really do we expect from the president?
It's I really wouldn't say I know what is in the president's speech or that, but then as it were, if it's matters to do with a national agenda, if it were like corruption, remember the last time when he had a list of 175, the list of shame, he had a standing ovation because corruption is something that the country is struggling to see how we can fight it. The successive regimes or governments have never been able to fight this particular monster. Every time, we see headlines, screaming headlines about corruption, but it appears the government has not been able, or those institutions mandated to fight corruption have not been able to meet their part of the bargain, because as it were, Kenyans are eager to see those big fish at least arrested and prosecuted and jailed, but we've not come to that level. Every time we see this kind of investigations touching on corruption, nothing is done. And I'm told, yes, the president is just making his way to Parliament presence, and we expect him to be here any time now, because as it were, a distance from State House to Parliament presence is just a short distance, and there's no traffic because the route has to be cleared for the president's motorcade. So we expect him to be here any time now to continue for the inspection of the guard of honor, and also get to Parliament and try to address the 12th Parliament, the new house that came into place following the August 8th 2017 election, a Parliament that was sworn in on the 30th of August, when members of Parliament convened here for their first sitting, where they took oath and elected their speakers to various houses. That is the National Assembly. We have Justin Muturi, who got a second term. He will be deputized by Kure Soy North Member of Parliament, Moses Cheboy. In the Senate, we had former Bungoma Governor Kenneth Lusaka taking over the mantle from the outgoing Senate Speaker David Ekwe Ethuro. But for the Senate, they still have a slot to fill. That is the Deputy Speaker position, was never filled because those people, the three candidates who expressed interest to take this position and were prevailed upon to take other positions. Like we had Susan Kihika, who was prevailed upon to be the majority whip. We had Irungu Kangata, who was also keen to be the Deputy Speaker, and he was later prevailed upon to be the Deputy Majority Whip. We had Kimani Wamatangi, whose fate was not known because he appears he didn't get anything out of that particular arrangement by the party leadership. So that particular position for the Deputy Speaker in the Senate, we expect it will be filled next week when the Clerk of the Senate will announce if we have any nominees who are eager to get to that particular, who are eager to get that slot. But then we had Kindiki Kithure, who had said that who had been touted for that position of Deputy Speaker. So as it were, we are still just waiting to see the arrival of the President anytime now. His motorcade is snaking its way to Parliament presence, and the military is at attention just to say to await the President's arrival, and then they will give him that opportunity to inspect the guard of honor.
Well, Patrick Amimo, thank you very much for that update. Some of the things we will be keenly following up on after this address and Parliament gets down to business. But we have been showing you live pictures of Deputy President William Ruto, who's just made way to Parliament ahead of that address by President Uhuru Kenyatta. Any minute now, we understand the President will be making his way to the August House. Live pictures from outside. That is the guard of honor that the President will be inspecting. And then back inside, members of Parliament, most of them drawn from the Jubilee side, have already settled in. We've seen a number of religious leaders make way. They will, of course, be leading the prayers before the President makes his address in this joint sitting, bringing together members from the National Assembly and the Senate. A function or an address that members of Parliament drawn from the National Super Alliance side have decided to stay away from or boycott, if you like, saying they do not recognize President Uhuru Kenyatta as their president, given that we will be heading into a fresh presidential election as Kenyans. So the 17th of October in the next, say, 34 days to come. And they have hope, really, that the NASA presidential candidate, Raila Odinga, will be elected as president. Live pictures there. The presidential motorcade making its way to Parliament. As you can see from the live pictures we are bringing you there. Very fast. I don't know whether furious, but very fast there, as we can see the president making his way into Parliament. This was expected at 2:30, not very far off from the time span was expected. Remember, the Parliament proceedings usually resume in the afternoon at 2:30. So it's very seemingly within the time range. At 2:50 p.m., the President makes his way to Parliament. He will be inspecting the guard of honor, where we have just been showing you pictures before he makes his way into Parliament to just tell Kenyans and members of Parliament of what really the agenda is. A lot of expectations from Kenyans with the country just very divided after their decision by the Supreme Court to overturn the ruling, and not just the country, but the legislators are there as well. The President getting out of his car, escorted by a number of his aides to just go and inspect the guard of honor. Battery of journalists, they're just trying to get the best shots as they can. The President there welcomed by a number of generals as he gets out of his car with his aides just escorting him to where he will be making the address. Salute there for the President, a tradition that has been observed for years in this country. He did the same when he was opening the 11th Parliament. He did the same as well in 2015 when he gave Kenyans the 175-member list of people named in corruption scandals. But let's quickly listen into that before he gets into that address momentarily.